This video is sponsored by my day job. All views and opinions are my own. Likes and subs are appreciated, but don't hit the notification button. Does anybody actually even do that? Seems annoying. Don't do that. I remember Aliens vs. Predator coming out in 2010 to kind of lackluster fanfare. At that point in time, I was deploying a lot, keeping pretty busy, so I never really got a chance to finish what isn't a really long game to begin with. Today we're taking a trip back to 2010 to take a look back at AvP on the PS3. Is this a forgotten classic, or a game that's only held up by a fan base that has little else to compare it to? Well, let's get into it. Welcome back to JBG, and welcome to the first Flashback video where we're taking a look back at some of the games from the PS1, 2, and 3 era. When I first got my capture card up and running, I wasn't sure what game to cover first. I thought it'd be funny to go over The Walking Dead Survival Instinct first, since I had that since release and couldn't even sell it. But after a couple hours of playing, well, I just couldn't. I don't get paid to create content, and that would take some monetary return to get through that piece of shit. But I've been shopping around online to rebuild a bit of a PS3 catalog as digital servers start shutting down. Obviously, I landed on 2010 AvP, PS3 as the first to cover. Any gamers from the 90s will remember how bad everybody wanted to get their hands on the Jaguar for the AvP game. Though there were a few FPS ports on home consoles at the time, we hadn't seen anything like that before. This was Rebellion's first jump in the AvP world, and it was mind-blowing for the era. Fast forward to 99, and Rebellion would take a second crack at it with another AvP on PC. Then they would once again reboot the franchise in 2010 with a version that home consoles could actually support. So this is a company that knew a thing or two about what they wanted to do with it here. I could obviously do spoilers for a 13-year-old game, but I still like to keep it to a minimum, just because for the Marine campaign and Predator campaign, they had some really interesting story ideas. They didn't necessarily flush out all the way, but it was interesting nonetheless. So the game has three main campaigns, the Marine, Alien, Predator. It seems like this is the way they want you to play through it too, and I did. All three tie into each other, crossing over campaigns in different areas. This causes level reuse, but I thought it was a kind of cool idea. None of the three campaigns are too long, shortest being the Alien, then the Predator, then the Marine. Regardless of what a lot of people say about the total length, the three campaigns combine to a completely average game length compared to any other FPS. I think I clocked in around 10 or 11 hours for the full playthrough. But I am going to mix it up a bit and go through the Alien and Predator campaigns first, and then circle back to the Marine campaign. So the Alien campaign starts as what I thought would be the most interesting storyline, turned into the one that led me down the worst. Not spoiling anything, but it basically starts out with a spin on the Alien Resurrection storyline. An alien being raised in a lab that escapes, and you take control of that escaped alien. I will say, looking at what was done with AvP 2 on PC, I'm a little disappointed it doesn't play out through the life cycle of the Xeno the way that one did, but I still think it was a solid enough start here. I should note here also, the Alien campaign has kind of a blue hue over the screen. I never really got used to it. It was kind of disorienting, but a lot of the Alien campaign was disorienting. The Alien is strictly melee attacks. With your claws as light attack, your tail is heavy. There really isn't any progression here like the other campaigns. I would assume this is why this one is the shortest, as to limit burnout through the playthrough. You're also a soft target as the alien, so the gameplay relies a lot on stealth and the speed of the alien, sticking mainly to stealthy approach and sticking to darkness. This is where it kind of breaks down for me and where I died, like, a lot. The speed of the alien combined with the wall and ceiling running makes the fast movement really disorienting too. Even bumps in the terrain in later levels pivots the point of view and can seem a bit janky and hard to follow. I might have missed it in the intro, but I found out eventually you can jump from surface to surface, and that helped a lot with how disorienting it felt going from the floor to the wall to the ceiling. But I found myself overwhelmed a lot in the Alien campaign, more than the other two. You have a really slow health regen, and you can bite the heads of downed enemies to regain health too. But if you can't get to a downed enemy, you need to just sit and wait for the regen. It's kind of counterintuitive to sit and wait if the intention of the Alien campaign is for the more speedy traversal. All three campaigns have a block, in addition to the light and heavy melee attacks. But for the Alien campaign, I forgot about it most of the time, just because the enemies are always shooting at you. Like I said, this is the shortest campaign, and I think the weakest storyline. I actually kind of hated how it ended. Kind of created some alien lore that just didn't make any sense to me. Even being the weaker campaign, they have the sound design on point here. That'll be a recurring theme, and part of why I have to say I really enjoy playing through all 3 of the campaigns. But the Alien campaign is probably the one I'll skip down the line if I hop back into the game.
Ugly motherfucker.
So, the Predator campaign. I have to say this is where the game starts to shine for me. The Predator campaign starts with you responding to the signal that Bishop sent out opening the pyramid. We'll get to that here in a minute. Of course, as a Predator, you murk the Marine ship that gets in your way on the way to the planet as you're responding. As a Predator, you're going to feel OP most of the time, but that's the entire point of putting them in the campaign. PC fans of the previous 2 games will probably say they nerfed the Predator here, but without a point of comparison for me, I still thought the Predator played very overpowered pretty much from the beginning. You have the ability to stay cloaked at all times without it being tied to any energy level. And from the start, you have a jump mechanic, making terrain traversal feel great for dropping attack and escaping if you get in over your head. With the Predator thermal vision, cloaking, jump mechanic, the ability to lure enemies out with the vocal mimicry pulled right out of the movies, it feels good to play even before unlocking the more powerful ranged options. You have the basic heavy and light attacks here with the wrist blades, same block mechanic from the Alien campaign, but it feels kind of weightier here. I've seen reviews saying it felt too sluggish as the Predator, but I think that's intentional. The Predator's a tank. It's supposed to feel slower. You start to unlock other weapons at story intervals by finding other fallen Predators, but a few didn't really hit for me. I constantly forgot about the prox mines, and I couldn't control the smart disc to save my life. You're stationary while you control it, so I found I set myself up for being flanked whenever I tried to use it. The plasma caster came in handy a few times, but again, it's tied to the energy level, and I would run out when I really needed it, rarely with a recharge station around when I was using it. Not that there's any lack of recharge stations, but in the moments I found that I actually needed to use the plasma caster, they weren't anywhere around, so I couldn't really rely on it too much. Eventually you get the combi stick, and it's completely OP. It has an insanely short recharge time, and it's not tied to any energy level, so you're going to default to this. But you pick it up late enough, I don't think it really ruined the campaign. I still mostly stuck to the melee, and just jumping in and out of the action. You also do unlock an alternate vision mode to locate aliens more easily, but I only really use this to find the spitters that hide off in the distance on the terrain. It was another option, I just kind of forgot about it for the most part. And the sound design here is just as good as on the Alien, pulling directly from the movies. From the cloak sound to the click of the Predator. Rebellion already had a hold on this, so I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Let's rock!
And the Marine campaign. This is where I find this entire thing worth the price of admission. I'm a huge fan of the first few Alien movies, even more than the first 2 Predators. So here's where I'm going to fanboy out. Don't judge me. The Marine campaign hits that feel of Aliens like few other Alien games have hit over the years. Mostly in the beginning of the campaign.
Mostly.
They were obviously going for an LB-426 environment here, and it totally works for me. The campaign starts with Bishop, of course being played by the legendary Lance Henriksen, activating a signal from the pyramid basically pulled straight out of the AvP movie. Signals sent up to the Predators, and them being Predators, they're going to respond and see what's going on. This is where they murk one of the Marine ships right when they pull out of the cloak, right when they get to the planet. They had a few fan service references here that some might find kind of cringe, but I have to be honest, I had to appreciate them.
Is this going to be a stand-up fight, sir, or another bug hunt?
We have a potential xenomorph infestation here. That's right, a bug hunt.
Excuse me, sir. A what?
A xenomorph.
It's a bug hunt.
And even just having a Bishop iteration, just to include Lance Henriksen, it's all fan service. I thought they hit the tension at the beginning on the nose. And a bit later, when you start getting into the nesting area and they're coming out of the walls, so reminded me of the movie. So you're a generic rookie jarhead. You get knocked unconscious when your dropship lands on the planet. There's a blurry semi-conscious cutscene, then you're just kind of dropped into action. Solo, of course. You start out with only a pistol, with an alternate burst fire option. And this thing is not going to get you very far. You have a weak flashlight as a lighting option, but you have flares similar to the 99 AvP. Unfortunately, you can only have one lit at a time. It's basically on a recharge, and they don't last long enough to really rely on a single one. This is one of my few gripes about the Marine campaign, as this is another mechanic that I rarely use due to its limitations, so I just stuck to that shitty flashlight most of the time. This being the campaign that most people start with, This is where you're going to actually first notice how amazing the sound design is. From the way they mix the radio chatter, the clicking of the motion tracker, the ping when motion's picked up, the automatic door sounds, the sentry guns, they hit it all here. There's so much to love about the sound design. Not to spoil anything, but the tension will kind of drop a little bit later in this campaign when you're fighting combat robots, but it tries to balance it back out towards the end. It is at its best when they're trying to reproduce the movie Aliens, though. You're going to have exactly the kind of weapons you would expect, with the exception of having a double-barreled shotgun instead of an Ithaca 37 like in the movie.
I'd like to keep this handy for close encounters.
I heard that.
But the shotgun alt-fire is being a simultaneous double-barrel, so it kind of worked here for me too. Obviously the staple of the franchise, you have the pulse rifle with a grenade alt-fire. As expected, they nailed the iconic sound of this rifle too, and they didn't just loop pulse clips like they did in another Alien game. I definitely found myself sounding like Hudson in a few of the more chaotic moments of the game.
Come on, you bastard! Come on, you too! Oh, you want some of that?
With only being able to carry 2 weapons, I had a pulse rifle on me at all times unless I was around the smart gun section, and those take out both weapon slots. The smart gun is pretty satisfying to use too, basically an aimbot that destroys anything that moves. The downside to the smart gun, I'd say, is the medium to long range accuracy drops off quite a bit. And obviously it fills both weapon slots, so that's a downside. And when you run out of rounds, you better remember where you dropped your other guns, or you're going to be stuck with that starter pistol. You also get a single shot rifle with a scope that's kind of OP. That's kind of what I use for the most part for the combat robots. There's also a flamethrower you can pick up, but going back over my game cap, I'm not sure I used it even once. I'm all about that pulse rifle and the shotgun. There was a multiplayer mode included too, but I didn't think it would be active this many years later, so I didn't even try and check it out, especially being on PS3. I did see a couple videos from the last year or so that shows there may still be some stragglers and the servers might still be up, and it looked like it added a lot of fun to the game. I'm pretty sure for the most part the PSN support for the PS3 is dwindling, if not dead already though. With the Xbox backwards compatibility, they may have some lobbies alive, and it might up the numbers a bit. PC gamers tend to keep multiplayer games alive long after us console gamers thought they were dead though, so who knows. But I can't personally speak to if it's worth it, but it does seem like it was well done and exactly what you would want out of an AvP multiplayer. A lot of the gripes people have on this game I can see, but I don't really think they're as bad as everybody says. The campaigns are on the shorter side on the individual level. Combined, this isn't really any shorter than any other FPS. There is the reuse of levels here, since all 3 campaigns intertwine, but it doesn't really bug me because it makes sense in-game. There's a purpose for it. Lazy design? Well, maybe, but at least it makes sense for the reused assets here. And I enjoy the multi-point of view that they went with here for the campaigns. Now being 2010, the graphics are a bit rough here and there, but I think it holds up well enough, at least to get the job done for what they were going for. The lack of options for a legit Alien game for console gamers might give me rose-colored glasses when looking at this thing 13 years after it came out. It definitely still hits for me. If you're a fan of the Alien and Predator franchises, I would definitely recommend checking this thing out. I think the $10 to $20 pickup on this thing is well worth it. Until next time.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
What? Toodaloo, motherfucker. Hey.